So we're halfway through a current year when it comes to hosting on Airbnb. So I figured why not just kind of break a little bit of this down when it comes to income and what we were expecting versus what we got. And this applies no matter what year it is, because I think every 6 months we like to do an assessment of how we're performing as a whole. And I think it helps a lot. So what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and zoom in, and we're going to go onto the desktop. You can see right over here. We've been having our Airbnb since December of 2021. We put it all together. It was our old house. Put it all together really nicely and started making money right off the bat. It took us about like $20,000 or so, maybe $25,000 to like get everything all set up. So I'm just giving you some context. We're in Phoenix, Arizona. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and we made it a really important point to fit as many beds in there. So we have 3 queens and 1 king size bed. And so you can see right over here, so far for 2023, we have right over here paid out so far $24,978. Obviously, you can see we have some money coming in for July. Now, there's a couple different things we want to consider here. One, where we're located, and then obviously 2, our highs and lows for the season. Now, our January and February are actually way lower than expected, and this was in part due to an error that was happening with a cleaner. So that's one really tough thing when it comes to running a business, is having to deal with issues, but we work on it. We shift our experience, and then we keep moving on. And you can see after that, we had a really, really good month of March. We had a really solid April, and then we had a really, really good month of May as well. And then for June, we obviously dropped quite a bit. And then what we're expecting for July is even lower, because June, July, August are really slow months here in Arizona because of the heat. People want to actually leave the state. So what we actually end up doing is giving bigger discounts for people that want to stay longer term. Last year around this time, we actually ended up getting people who stayed for a couple of months, similar to the guests we have now. And so that helps us out, have somebody in the house helping cover the bills essentially, and not having to worry about turnover and, filling up those spaces and giving even bigger discounts than we already are. So it's really a win-win for a lot of people. So if you're coming to Arizona, you probably are going to get a really nice deal during the summer. So just a nice little tip there for you. Now I'm going to bring up my calculator here so you can see 24,978 is what we've been paid out so far. So if we break that down per month, it's a little bit off camera, as you can see that. So right now we've been making about $4,163 per month. Now this is averaged, obviously you can see, because January and February were much lower. And so this is how I like to look at things, is that sometimes we're going to get a really good month, and I want to kind of hold some of that money to be able to pay for some of those months that we don't make as much, or we don't fill up the house as much when it comes to bookings. Now, this is before expenses. And earlier this year, and actually when we first started our Airbnb, we didn't have any mortgages or a mortgage on the property, but we actually decided to take out a mortgage on the property because we wanted to do big things with that fund to either buy another Airbnb or invest in other businesses, or possibly even do other just regular types of investments. Keep a lookout for that, because that'll probably show up here on the channel as well. So make sure you are subscribed to that, or to this channel, I should say. And so for us, now we do have a mortgage to cover, but obviously we have, even without that, we did have the water, we had electricity, and we also have the property taxes that we have to pay once a year. So we kind of just keep some money built up aside for that. And now we do have a mortgage that we want to account for every single month. So even with all the expenses on there, we probably, actually, let me summers are a little bit higher in electricity bill, because I don't do like a flat rate every single month and then pay the difference. I just like to do those ebbs and flows. So I would say in a given month, with this average of 4,163, our expenses are probably close to about 2,500 at the moment, because the loan that we took out has a little bit of a higher interest rate, which is fine, because we're going to refinance it once the interest rates do eventually drop. So for us, we're still netting a really healthy amount of money every single month, especially when you compare it to doing it I'm like dropping my words here, especially if we do it in comparison to a long-term rental. Even though we are doing like 3 to 4 month rentals during the summer, obviously we're still considered a short-term rental. Now here in Arizona, we are going to have some new things going past legislation. So we're going to actually have to pay a little bit more in fees, and then have a little bit more due diligence when it comes to hosting. So it's something to keep in mind when you're interested in doing Airbnb. So just kind of, look out for that for your city, and requirements and changes through legislation in that regard. Now, obviously, if you haven't already started with Airbnb and you do want to check it out, I always have a link in the show notes down below for you, plus any other resources that I love using as a small business, such as our bank account. But also too, I do have videos talking about Airbnb and getting started with that. So what I actually do want to do, I'm going to bring up my face here, is I'm going to actually put up my video right over here for you. So if you do want to get started with Airbnb and then have a bank account for all your expenses to come into and all your expenses to go out of, I use Novo Bank, and this is my favorite. I use it for multiple businesses. I'm going to put up that video right over here right now. So check it out so you can actually have another business account that you can utilize, and it's entirely free to use.